الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي اللهم ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا اللهم انصر الأخوان والمجاهدين في غزة وفي كل عالم اللهم انصرهم نصرا عزيزا اللهم انصرهم نصرا معزرا اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منه واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم يا رب العالمين اللهم انصر الأخوان المستضعفين المظلومين في فلسطين وفي غزة وفي كل عالم يا رب العالمين اللهم اجعلنا من أنصارهم وأعوانهم وإخوانهم يا رب العالمين ولا تجعلنا أعوان الظلمة يا رب العالمين ولا تحرمنا من حوض رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يا رب العالمين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Okay, so this is a question from some viewers. This is a question about Allama Iqbal, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and their school of thought. So, and the question is that Allama Iqbal says in Reconstruction, for example, and probably Sayyid Ahmad Khan says somewhere too, but that's the questioner's interpretation of it, so I'll state that. We actually discussed this when we started reading Reconstruction because Allama Iqbal says something similar on the first page of the first chapter of Reconstruction. I don't know where Sir Syed Ahmad Khan says that, but it seemed like he believes in something similar. And the question is that for them, religion philosophy science and higher poetry. Higher poetry. According to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and Allama Iqbal, according to the person who is asking question, these different disciplines have not only the same question, they don't just only raise the same question, but they also raise similar sort of, if not the same, answers. So science, philosophy, religion, and higher poetry don't just raise similar sort of question, but their answers are similar as well. And our job is to reconcile these answers to the Islamic answers if they look different. And the question is, what is our opinion? I guess the opinion of my teacher The questioner actually said, what is the opinion for our school of thought? I don't think we have a school of thought yet. It's just basically Dr. Javed Ansari's thought. And since he's one of my main teachers, I was heavily influenced by him. And I do consider myself as part of his school of thought, if there is a school of thought. But I don't know who is the third one in this school of thought. There are certain people who have participated in our study circle and read our things, so they have picked things from here and there, but I don't know of any people who actually have seriously worked on this sort of these sort of things, and it's using similar method to constitute a school of thought in this. And I don't know what Dr. Javed Ansari's view is on this question, so I'll just answer what my view is on this. So I won't answer about what our school of thought says or what my teacher says. You can ask him directly, but I'll just answer what my view is on this. So what is my answer? So religion, philosophy, science, and higher poetry. So firstly, I think I would personally differentiate between these and a conception of religion. The important thing is, what is your conception of religion? A modernist conception of religion is totally different from, for example, traditional, medieval, or even early modern conception of religion. And those are different from the conception of Islam, which is a deen and not just religion. Similarly, philosophy, different conceptions of philosophy. Even within modern philosophy, there are different traditions. In science, what is your conception of science? And higher poetry, I really don't even know what higher poetry is. But probably what he means is poetry like his or Rumi, for example. Or, in English tradition, for example, metaphysical poetry tradition, or certain romantics who deal with philosophical issues, or in, let's say, German philosophy, there's, for example, Heine, or what's the other one? Goethe, for example, or what's the other one? Hegel's friend, and people like those. So probably that sort of poetry is talking about. So even within a single conception of philosophy, for example, modern philosophy, there are types of philosophy which just deal with conceptual issues. They don't, at least not directly, talk about God or soul or hereafter. These are typical religious issues, purpose of life, etc. And science, obviously, okay, so one is conception. The other thing is the question of method. So not every philosophy has the same method. Science and its method, for example. religion has different method for the example. So there's difference between methods, even if they are raising a similar sort of question. And the third thing is answers. Okay. So there are questions, there are answers, and their method. I'm sure we can say on conceptual level certain things about that. But on more basic level, it's just an empirical question. What answers a particular religion or philosophy or science or higher poetry does on a specific issue? You can't say something. I mean, you can make an empirical generalization, but what's the point of it? But conceptually, I don't think you can say anything basic about the answers. You should have to link what a particular religion says about these questions. What are the questions of, and what are their answers? And similarly, with question answer and method, these are all empirical question in the sense that you have to actually see what a particular religion or science or philosophy, what is its method, and what are its questions, and what are its answers. And you can see whether those answers are same or not, or those questions are same or not, those methods are same or not. So this seems to me an empirical question at the first hand. How can you say something conceptually fruitful unless you focus on method? And I think that's what Alam Iqbal does. If you focus on method, then you might be able to say something conceptually fruitful on whether the answers of questions of these different disciplines would be the same or different, just based on possibilities and restrictions of a method. That's another point you can make. Okay. And I think Alam Iqbal, at least in reconstruction, what he does is focus on methods. And he does say that their questions are similar, but he does point out to difference in the method which lead to difference in answers. Although there might be some similarities in answers, but I think Alam Iqbal doesn't claim that their answers are different. And he focuses on the distinction or differences in method, especially of philosophy, science, and religion. Okay. Now, what is our opinion on this issue? What my opinion is, I think I will say a few things about this. Number one is, when you make religion a faculty in the Kantian said faculty among other faculties of a modern university, then you are turning religion into basically a human invention. That's the first thing. So when you talk about whether you mean it or not in this context in which the question is posed, and in which Alam Iqbal more or less talks about religion, is religion as a discipline among other disciplines in a modern university, really? Or at most we can say what He's talking about by religion. His conception is very similar to a Protestant modernist conception of religion. Is a human invention. It's a human endeavor. And at most, Allama Iqbal's conception of religion there is similar to Hegel's conception of religion as a self-expression of self-realization of zeitgeist. So zeitgeist. So that's the zeitgeist, or he calls it God sometime, is realizing itself or trying to express itself in different ways in this world. And one way is humanity, and that's the most advanced way. And these are the inventions of humanity: religion, science, philosophy, and higher poetry. And if humanity is the self-expression of God or zeitgeist, then and if religion, science, and philosophy and history are the self-expression of humanity, then they would be expressing similar sort of things in different ways, though methods are different. Hegel recognizes that, and Iqbal, I think, is quite Hegelian in that vein. And an answer would be similar too, because it's a self-expression of similar sort of self-expression of the same zeitgeist, but in different modes, if you want to use a more Spinozian term here. So answers would be similar, but the truth and objectivity of the answer would be delimited by the language and the method of that self-expression. Okay, so there is still a hierarchy among those answers, even if those answers are similar. So that's the first point. But we obviously reject all this. Religion for us is not a true religion like deen. That's why I want to use the word deen, a deen, a way of life, a worldview. The true worldview is not a human invention, it's a revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's beyond human intervention. Obviously, its understanding is human, but it itself is. That's why it's Muhammad, is judge on everything we do, an eternal judge. So that's the first thing which we reject in that. And the second and main point is that in my opinion, that science, religion, philosophy, and higher poetry today, as faculties and disciplines of modern university, they are they're anchored in a particular worldview which gave birth to these disciplines. And that particular worldview determines to a large extent their method. Obviously, there's a diversity in method according to the discipline, but it is still anchored in a particular worldview. So in that sense, their questions and their answers, both really, are the exact opposite, generally speaking, of the worldview are exact opposites. The answers, questions, and method as well are exact opposite of the answers and questions and method of Islam. Because, I mean, there are three major differences, I would say. The three major differences are that on the first hand, they are this worldly. They are focused on this world. And the conception of this worldly is not even delimited in any negative sense by hereafter. They are this worldly, pure and simple. On the other hand, our worldview, our deen, al-haq, is otherworldly in its positivity. That's for the first basic difference. So that's why all our disciplines are anchored in and delimited by al-ghaib, which people translate as unseen, sometimes metaphysics, but metaphysics and these unseens are all relative. You can have a conception of unseen and metaphysics in modern worldview too, but there's no conception of ghaib as such in alam al-ghaib, the world of ghaib, which is beyond this world and unseen and metaphysics determined by this world. That's the second point. And third point is, and that will relate to the so-called method, is that there is no conception of revelation. So theirs is sans revelation, without revelation. They're focused on total human faculty. So that's why human is autonomous and self-sufficient, precisely in that sense. Because otherwise we use reason, we use senses, obviously we are human, but they use reason and senses without a prior conception of revelation and shaping those reasons and senses with revelation. So that's three basic difference. That's why what I will say is not just their method, but questions and answers are exact opposite, polar opposite. So there's no reconciliation in sense. Of course, we can take a lot of things from their method, questions and answer, but only once we have deconstructed. So part of those things can be incorporated into our view, but only once they have been deconstructed in the sense that the facts and conceptual tool in these disciplines are totally diffused from or dissociated from the worldview in which they are anchored. So that's my basic, first attempt at answering this. But we'll continue this, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.